A lot of tall folks, myself included, find it really challenging to keep our heels down when we're trying to squat low. Whether that's from our heels just lifting up or our ankles rolling inward, this can be particularly challenging for those of us with very long limbs. So in this video, we're going to talk about the tools and strategies you can use to help you keep your heels down more comfortably so you can squat as low as possible, even though you're a tall person. The main reason why it's so hard to keep our heels down as tall people when we're trying to squat low is due to our ankle mobility and the flexibility in our Achilles tendon. Because our legs are so much longer and there's so much more bend in our legs and so much farther our knee drives over our toes when we squat low, that requires a lot more flexibility out of our Achilles tendon, a lot more ankle mobility than the average Joe. So if we can improve our ankle mobility and increase the flexibility in our Achilles tendon, we're going to be able to keep our heels down more when we squat low. The first two fixes we're going to talk about actually help reduce the amount of ankle mobility you need to squat low. And the simplest of all the fixes is simply to elevate your heels by stepping on a thin weight plate. Usually like a 10-pound bumper plate works really well for this, or two small 5-pound weights. But essentially you put the plate under your heel at your squat stance, whatever that is for you. Essentially set up the plate to allow you to put your heels up in your squat stance, and what that does is it takes out the need for that extra mobility and that extra flexibility in your Achilles tendon. The only big drawback to this is that it's less stable than if you're squatting on a flat surface. The second fix that we can use though is using a weightlifting shoe. My favorite being the Tier shoe from Squat University, mainly because it has a wide toe box which allows your toes to spread out, but it has a very solid, very stable elevated heel surface, which essentially mimics what we're using for the weight plate, but it creates a fully flat surface, so it's a lot more stable. But they're gonna cost you some money, but if you're willing to invest, it's definitely worthwhile. Now, elevating your heels with weight plates or using weightlifting shoes sometimes isn't enough. So I've got two mobility exercises that are great to do as a warm-up before any squatting workout that are really gonna help loosen up everything in the back of your legs. And the first exercise is hands on the wall, straight leg, full range of motion, calf raises. What's awesome about the hands on the wall position is that it allows us to get a huge stretch in our calves and Achilles at the bottom of the calf raise. And usually a lot more stretch than you would get if you were just doing a traditional calf raise on the ground. And you don't need any sort of fancy calf raise machine or anything like that. You just put your hands up on the wall and walk your legs back behind you. Now it's really important here to make sure that you lock your knees out so that way you can really get that full stretch on the calves and on the Achilles. The farther you walk your legs away from the wall, the more intense the stretch of each rep becomes. I like to do just one set of 20 to help warm up the calves and Achilles. If you want to do a bonus set, you can try with the knees over toes variation where you actually bend in your legs, and this allows you to get a very specific, very deep Achilles stretch, which can also help. Just make sure that when you're doing your reps that you give a good 1 second pause in the stretched position with each rep. For the second mobility exercise, you're gonna want either a weight plate or a dumbbell or a kettlebell. And what you're gonna do is you're gonna get yourself into the deepest squat position that you can with the plate or the weight out in front of you. Now that weight is gonna act as a counterbalance, allowing you to sit yourself up. And with the weight out in front of you, you're simply going to shift your weight over to one leg, then the other, focusing on driving your knee over your toe each time. You're gonna feel a really deep calf and Achilles stretch, which is warming up those muscles, those tendons, everything that we want to warm up in order for us to squat low while keeping our heels down. I usually just set a timer for 60 seconds and work on rocking back and forth one leg to the other. And each time you're trying to get a little bit more knees over the toes action, a little bit more stretch each time. With those two mobility exercises done before you start squatting, the last thing I recommend that really helps you with keeping your heels down when you include all these other things that we've talked about is when you do your first warm-up set with just the barbell, practicing your good reps. After you've done your warm-up set of however many reps it might be, 10, 15, 20, on your final rep, you're gonna sit at the bottom of that squat position. You're just gonna sit there and hold it, keeping tension in your quads, but also in your calves and Achilles, and just allowing your body to stretch out in that position. See if you can hang out down there for 15 to 20 seconds on your last rep of your warm-up set. And with all of those things in mind, whether you use some strategies or all of them, that should all help you with keeping your heels down more while you're trying to squat low, which has been a lifelong problem for tall folks. But I hope this video could help you out if you're a fellow tall person or long-limbed individual. Thanks so much for watching, and let me know what you want to see next from me down in the comments, and I'll see you in the next video.